speak for public comment today, if you'd please sign in the back of the room and provide your name and address. All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is there anyone here today from the public who would like to comment on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Are there any requests from the commission to remove items from the consent agenda? Once again, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to regular business. If you plan to speak today on regular business, please make sure that you've signed in. Our first item is item 8, which is a public hearing for appeal of a decision by the Minnehaha County Planning Commission to deny CUP number 23-43 to allow a rubble dump, tree grinding operations on the property described in the agenda. I will note that the applicant has withdrawn its appeal, so there's no action required by the county commission, but this was posted as a public hearing, and so we will give an opportunity for proponents and opponents if there are any. And we'll start with our staff. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mason Steffen from the County Planning Office. So this petitioner for this request has had several items before the County Commission over the past several months. This specific item was deferred to this meeting from the County Commission meeting on September 19th. The reason for that deferral was to allow the petitioner time to obtain a traffic study and also to allow the petitioner's other pending conditional use permit to be resolved before final action on this item. At the October 24th County Commission meeting, this operation was approved at a different location from the location at this request via conditional use permit 2351. Therefore, after that conditional use permit was approved, the petitioner did withdraw their appeal of this request on October 26th. Therefore, since the petitioner did withdraw their appeal, no action is required by the County Commission, and the original decision of the Planning Commission to deny this request will stand. And just as a reminder, I'll scroll down to the site quick if I can find it. Oh, maybe I don't have it. Here we go. So just as a reminder, it's the site directly north of the landfill, with the landfill access being here and 267th Street being here. But I'm available for any questions if you have them.
Any questions for Mason? So like I said, because this was posted as a public hearing, I'm going to allow comment. Is there anybody here that wanted to speak on behalf of the applicants, the appellants? Seeing no one, is there anyone here who wanted to speak in opposition to this?
Hi there, Diane Runge, and I did sign in. So I would just like to make you guys aware, if you get on Mueller Pallet's website and scroll down to the blue paragraphs, they are actually, when they wanted to get that they could do stained wood, I went on their website, and I have pictures of it also, just didn't bring it up, that they say now we're able to take any kind of wood, which does not cover in what you guys approved. And so I don't know how long that's been on there, plus not the last meeting, but the meeting before, their lawyers said they were taking household woods, which are treated. I don't know any part of the house that is not painted, stained, or sealed. So they do need to be regulated because if they've been doing it this long without the correct permits to do it, they're just gonna keep on going. So I want everybody to be aware of the things they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Brandt, and I've also signed in. I'm kind of speaking for the community. There was over 200 petitioners that were against this from the neighborhood. And we want to thank those that listened to us and could see what our concerns were. We're just baffled as to why the commissioners would go against 200 residents' wishes and vote in favor of, when we had nothing to gain, whether we won or lost, we had nothing to gain, and go against a non-resident, single person who had profit to gain, and why you would award it to her instead of listening to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, doesn't appear there's anybody here for rebuttal, and there's no action that is needed. So we will go ahead and move to item 9. Item 9 is a public hearing to consider declaring the property legally described as the north 114 feet, west 73 feet of Peterson Tract 2 in the southwest quarter of Section 17, Township 103 North, Range 50 West, in Lyons Township, a public nuisance, and enact SDCL 20-10-06. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, I'm Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. And you just heard the legal description there. This property is located on 5th Street in Lyons, South Dakota. It does not have an address. The property has a history of noncompliance with the nuisance ordinance, and a public nuisance has been declared on the property a minimum of twice. Several vehicles have been on the property for many years, and I'll scroll down and show you some of the photos. So these are pictometry imageries that was taken this spring, and you can see some of the vehicles here present. And here you can see this one a little bit better from the building. Some of the photos of the site, staff have been out to the site several times, and you can see starting in May, we have the vehicles. This one's missing a hood, flat tires, and other kind of inoperable conditions of the vehicles. Throughout the summer, the grass would grow up and cause even more kind of problems for maybe even harboring a pest and things like that. And yet the vehicles remain the same. At some point in the summer, the landowner did go through and put paper dealership tags in the windows, and that did cause some complication as to determine whether or not these vehicles could still be considered abandoned property, which we have determined that yes, they are still considered abandoned property because they meet the abandoned property definition, which includes the statement, without being so restricted, this shall include deteriorated, wrecked, inoperative, dismantled, or partially dismantled motor vehicles as part of the definition. Several letters were sent to the property owners, Tamara and Mike Day, regarding the cleanup and further inspections. No response was made regarding that. Planning staff does request that this property be declared a public nuisance to allow the Minnehaha County to remove violations from property. Specifically, the goal is to remove inoperable and abandoned vehicles as shown on the site. South Dakota Codified Law 21-10-6 allows the county to declare a public nuisance and allow the cleanup of the property and defray the cost of the property owner. So again, Planning and Zoning Department requests that Minnehaha County Commission declare a public nuisance on the property described as the north 114 feet to the west 73 feet of Peterson's Tract 2 and the southwest quarter of Section 17, Township 103 North, Range 50 West. And is there any questions?
Any questions for Kevin? All right, so this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of declaring this property a public nuisance? All right, is there anybody here who is opposed, who would like to speak in opposition to declaring this property a public nuisance? All right, doesn't appear there's anybody here to speak on this topic, so I'm going to turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Karski?
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, Kevin, it appears that, I mean, from the photos, the property's being mowed and maintained, so that really the issue is these vehicles, correct?
The vehicles is the primary thing. Mowing is sporadic, and sometimes the property owner will mow and sometimes not. As you can see, there's pretty tall grass here in September.
Yeah, I mean, it's mowed except for where stuff is sitting. Is this property occupied?
There's a building on the property, but there's no house.
Okay. Okay.
Kevin, I apologize. Do we have proof that they received these letters? Do we know that they received these letters?
I have not received any response this morning. I did receive a phone call from Tammy, and she noted that was concerned about what was going on, but that Mike was not going to be probably showing up today. But other than that, that would be my only proof that they received it.
Okay. And no indication from her of any intent to move the vehicles or take
No.
any action? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Kevin, you mentioned that there was a history of non-compliance. Can you tell us more about that?
So, since I've been here working with this property, the very first time we worked with the property, there was a fire in a small building, and the debris was not cleaned up. So the county went in and cleaned up the debris, including numerous barrels and burned even cars that were damaged by the fire. Staff went back there again and cleaned up, mowed the property, removed several more vehicles off the property that were unlicensed. And I can't remember how many years ago. That was probably 2018-ish for the last time.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Benega.
Kevin, do you have any idea what those lien costs were that we attached to that property for those?
Thank you. My light's not on either. How many times we've put some dollar values against the property to get those cleaned up?
I cannot recall. I recall the first time being much more because they had to remove an entire structure burned out. And we also did some testing because there was barrels with unknown fluids in it. So we tested the fluids to make sure they could be moved out safely. So I think that one was, I don't know, about $3,000. Moving vehicles is not as expensive because the company that moves the vehicles either gets paid through an impoundment, or they can get paid by getting the salvage title and selling the vehicle at a later date.
My next part, if I may, how many times have we sent notices in this last transaction that we've been at for months?
This would be 3 notices plus the hearing letter here for today.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I'm looking for a motion
I'd
then.
make a motion to declare this a public nuisance.
I'll second that.
So motion and a second. Any further questions? If not, roll call vote, please.
Karski,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 10, which is a public hearing to consider declaring the property legally described as Tract 4, EXH-1, West Acres in the southwest quarter of Section 17, Townships 101 North, Range 50 West in Wange Township, a public nuisance, and enact SDCL 20-10-06. Kevin, thank you.
Yes, I am Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. This is also a public nuisance request. The address of the property is 46740 265th Street. See if we can pull up the PowerPoint here.
265th Street, you said?
Yes, so this would be Highway 42. going west of Sioux Falls. This property was complained about from a neighbor. Throughout the summer, staff observed abandoned property displayed in the front yard and abandoned vehicles. I will note that this was originally complained in attachment with this property, which is owned by an estate, both maintained by Gerald Hoff, the property owner here. Throughout the summer, staff noticed that there was change here, and this property has been cleaned up and the abandoned vehicle on the property has been removed. But as you can see in this imagery here, that there is still items here that are abandoned, and at least 3 vans that are on this side of the property back here. And we'll also show you some more photos in a moment. The items in the front yard include building materials and unused items and placed on small trailers. I will note that there was a little bit of hiccup in notification of this one. If you read through the letters, some of the letters were originally sent to this property. Because of the hiccup in the notice, we extended the deadline later in the summer to give them more time, and I met with the property owner on the site there, and he agreed that he could remove the items by October, and that has not happened. And so that site visit was on August 15th when I met with the property owner in person. Since then, the noticeable change since this August 15th visit was that the 2 vans have been pulled from the backyard to the front, presumably in order to get easier access to them to remove them, but they have not been removed off the property. I'll go through some of the photos here. This would be some of the earlier photos taken this year. You can see kind of these trailers with lots of stuff on them, building materials and garbage cans. Here's a couple of pictures of the vans that are in the backyard. This is when they were kind of hidden in the trees a little bit. Throughout the summer, more vegetation hides them a little bit better. This is from the site visit, I think, yep. So you can get some close-up of some of the materials that are there and the stuff that has been abandoned in the front yard. And then with the more recent photos, you can see that the vans have been pulled out into the front yard here, and now are visible. And there's one more right here that are still a little bit hidden in behind the trees. So staff is again requesting that the county commission declare the property a public nuisance and enact 21-10-6. And I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for Kevin? Commissioner Karski.
Are there any open building permits on this property for renovation or construction, anything?
No, there isn't. On the neighboring property, we did have a complaint about holes in the roof and possibly harboring bats. He did fix the holes in the roofs, but that would be on the neighboring property.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin? All right, so once again, this is a public hearing. So if there's anybody here who would like to speak in favor of declaring this property a public nuisance, this is your opportunity. All right, no proponents. Any opponents? Is there anybody here who would like to speak in opposition to declaring this property a public nuisance? Property owner here?
I don't see him.
Okay. All right, I guess there's no need for rebuttal then. Commissioner Karski.
You know, we don't go out looking for these properties. Somebody calls and complains, and there's probably more than one person that's complained on it, and maybe not in this case, but typically there is. Clean up your property. I mean, this one, or if there's others out there, you have neighbors, be a good neighbor. Yeah, just, I drive by this one regularly, and I I shake my head, just wondering why. So, yeah, my comments.
Any other comments? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
Move to declare this a public nuisance.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, this takes us to item 11, which is another public hearing to consider the transfer of retail of an on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license for, I'm just gonna kill the name of pronunciation of this name, Kelson Enterprises 3 LLC. Kim, I should have let you read it.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Christensen with the Auditor's Office. The Auditor's Office received an application for a transfer of a retail on-off sale malt beverage and ST Farm wine license that is currently being held by Kelvin Olson, doing business as Buffalo Trading Post. The business has been sold from Mr. Olson to Kelgen 3 Enterprises effective of October of this year. The business name will actually remain the Buffalo Trading Post. Due to the sale of the business, a transfer license is required. The license would allow for sale of malt beverages and ST Farm wine at the location located in Minnehaha County. The application has been reviewed by the Sheriff's Office, State's Attorney's Office, and Planning and Zoning Department, and no questions or concerns were raised. The fee for a license transfer is $150, with $75 of that going to the Department of Revenue and the remaining $75 staying with the county.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Kim? All right, once again, this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody who is supportive of this motion to transfer the license, that this is their opportunity to speak if they want to. Anybody opposed to this transfer? All right, I'll turn it over to the commissioners.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion in a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. This takes us to item 12, which is to consider a motion to authorize the chairperson to sign a resolution authorizing the commencement of civil action related to W.H. Lyon Fairgrounds and the task force recommendations. Tyler, good morning.
Good morning, Tyler Clatt, Commission Office. So as you said, before you is for your consideration a resolution which would authorize the commencement of a civil action related to the W.H. Lyons Fairgrounds. I'm just going to give you some background as to what happened to get us to this point, and then I'll have the State's Attorney's Office kind of explain the legal issue itself. So in January of 2022, the Commission authorized a task force to look at and understand the future of the W.H. Lyon Fairgrounds. That task force consisted of 15 members of the community who met over a variety of meetings from May 2022 up until May of 2023 when they released their final report. Included in that process was the creation of a market and economic impact study that informed a lot of their decision-making, ultimately resulting in their final recommendations to the Commission, which were 3 primary recommendations, one of which is highlighted in the briefing memo, which is to further clarify the existing deed restrictions. In their final report, I want to also kind of highlight that there's a few other highlights that they pointed out as to kind of the general concerns that they had heard from the community when serving as a member of this task force. Those all primarily were predicated on figuring out the restrictions associated with that land, which is again now why we are asking you to consider this resolution, because it seems that that is the most logical next step as we move forward with this project. With that, I'll have Eric Bogue kind of talk about the legal ramifications of this process, and I can answer any questions too.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Eric Bogue from State's Attorney's Office. As Tyler already mentioned, this would authorize us to initiate appropriate legal action. There are a variety of different ways, and I hate to make this any lighthearted, but there are kitchen sink sort of approach to this. But likely one of the approaches will be under SDCL 4325-18.1, which talks, that was passed in 2005 by the legislature to deal with a situation very similar to what we're dealing with here. The case in point in that situation was a piece of property that had originally been gifted by a donor to the Mitchell School District, who in turn then donated it or gave it to the Mitchell Christian School District, who then in 2005 was building a brand new building. Didn't need that property anymore, but given its location in the heart of Mitchell, it was no longer appropriate for the educational purpose that was restricted in the deed under the original grant. There was no way to divest it. At that time, they didn't know what else to do with it. They passed this bill to allow them to transform that property in its current location by sale to either alternate property elsewhere, and which is what in this case Mitchell Christian School did, is used the proceeds from that sale to help fund and build the building that they were building in a new location. But that's what the purpose of this bill is actually for. So one of the methods that will be looked at or examined as far as our final legal action would be to proceed under that statute, which says that if the original gift is determined to become either impossible or impractical in its current location, given other restrictions or situations, that the religious, educational, charitable, benevolent, or public object of the grantor or advisor is set forth in such conveyance may be prevented or defeated thereby. So certainly may not ultimately be impossible in its current location, but we have recognized through the task force that there are some impracticabilities and restrictions that are in place that make operation of the fair in its current location difficult, and going forward into the future may in fact become impossible. So we think that at this point may be appropriate to proceed under that statute. There may be other things that we'll ask the court to examine, one of which may be just simply to absolve the county of some portion of the restrictions that are not practical and have been part of an ongoing debate. This has been an issue that the Commission and Fair Board have been looked at for some period of time. So without prattling anymore, without further question, I'd sure open it up if any of you had questions for me.
Any questions for the state's attorney? Commissioner Benninga.
Having served on that board for many, many years, I would just say that I appreciate the extra efforts that were made by the community to come up with a recommendation. I appreciate the fact that the state's attorney's been involved with this and frankly had conversations with outside attorneys. I think this gives us at least the possibility of clean title, I would call it. And then from a legal standpoint, that's probably not exactly what an attorney would say, but that's what I kind of feel like it is to clean up things that frankly in the ag industry have not been done for many, many years. So it is an opportunity for us to look at this as a future asset.
All right, thank you. If there aren't any other questions for the state's attorney right now, I will open this up for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, and I'll turn it back over to the commission for commission discussion. Commissioner, anybody? Commissioner Karski?
Sure, I'm glad that we're following, at least starting to follow the recommendations of the task force. It spent a considerable amount of time and effort, and this is one of their top recommendations, as is illustrated in the resolution. And this property has a lot of deed restrictions that we've been kind of complying with some and totally disregarding others. So, I mean, it's just a great start for us to, as Commissioner Benninga indicated, get to take ownership of this property and do what's right for the community.
All right, anyone else? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the process.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Leinberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 13, which is a presentation by the Glory House. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
I'm Nikki Dvorak, the president of Glory House, and Chastity.
If you guys could speak into the microphones, the program is broadcast, so that helps.
I'm Nikki Dvorak, the president of Glory House, and this morning I brought Chastity Towns, who is the compliance manager, and Amber Bartels, who is the housing and special projects manager. And I can't forget that Mike Gray on our board came to watch our presentation. And so I thought it would be a nice change to offer a variety of services that we provide that maybe we haven't presented to the commissioners in the past. So when I had asked the managers, Chastity and Amber, if they would be willing to come with me, they put together this great presentation. So I will pause and let them take over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, how are you? Today we are going to just give you a small presentation of our services and do I click on here? I think you have access. Go ahead. Oh, okay, sorry. So we provide residential and outpatient services as well as services outside of that for outpatient. We do GPS monitoring, we do drug testing, so a lot of that stuff is a big part of how we kind of incorporate everything that we do all in one. So the mission of the Glory House is helping people claim their lives with Christian passion and resources and support. Like I said, we both have residential and outpatient clients that participate in programs to treat their substance abuse and mental health issues. The history of the Glory House goes back to 1968. So Roger Frederickson recognized the need of housing and support for men coming out of prison. A house was donated and Glory House was then established. In 1975, Present Men's Building was built as a single-family home, additions added to increase capacity. In 2004, Administrative Building was added. 2008, our Sands Freedom Center was added, which is our current women's unit. And then in 2019, we started opening up the Glory House Apartments, which is a great addition. For residential services, Glory House has 68 male beds and 30 female beds. Clients who reside at the Glory House are typically there on an average of 90 to 120 days, just depending on what services and how well they're doing throughout the program. So that could be more or less. Clients receive counseling and case management services to aid in their transitioning to independent living. Discharges occur when clients have resolved the concerns that had led to their admission and reason for coming to us in the first place. Additional services that we offer, like I said, is drug and alcohol assessments, individual counseling, group counseling, electronic monitoring, drug testing, and the Glory House Apartments. So this is my department here, which is GPS and Scram, and I also oversee the drug testing department at the Glory House. So with our program with GPS, we work with state parole, court services, court ordered, and then also self-admits on occasion, and then residential clients as well. Our monitoring provides 24/7 services, so myself and the other gentleman in my department, we're on call, and we have team leads now, which is nice, so we get to share that on call with them as well. So there's 3 of us who rotate and get those notifications all day, 24/7, to make sure that we're providing the best services for the referrals that we're getting from. Flexibility to go to work, programming, treatment, medical, legal, and religious activities. So those are the main things that we offer our clients when they're on our program. Anything outside of that, if a person works out of town, we get had a lot of services for truck drivers lately, which is great. It allows them to still be on the program, serve their house arrest time, but yet travel and do their job as well. However, we do require permission from that judge sentencing them, just to give us that permission for them to not be residing in their home. Additional 3 hours per week, we allow them for necessity items only, which would be, grocery shopping, paying a bill, that type of thing. They are required to complete a weekly schedule with us every week, and they're due on Mondays. Our cost for the GPS is $13 per day, and then we have a $35 connection fee that is for any service that we offer for a monitoring. I'm going to show you a link here that kind of gives just a quick glimpse of what our GPS monitor is doing and what it offers, hopefully. Oh, where's the volume? It's already up. Help.
electronic monitoring is one tool that can support both objectives. Introducing Rely Alert XC4 by Track Group, the safest, most reliable monitoring device ever made, and the only one-piece GPS device with patented three-way voice communication. For high-risk offenders, the optional Secure Cuff provides increased security to those tampering with the device or attempting to abscond. The onboard siren, unique to Rely Alert, can be activated by the monitoring center during critical violations to alert potential victims or help locate the device during recovery efforts. Rely Alert delivers even longer battery life with nearly 4 days of operation and up to 2 weeks of backup power before shutdown, and 4G LTE technology for optimal wireless connectivity. This allows for real-time voice communication, which streamlines intervention efforts. And participants can press the phone button to connect directly with the monitoring center in emergency situations. The true impact of Rely Alert's capabilities is seen when all of this comes together in real time. A repeat sex offender approaches a park where unaccompanied children play. A domestic violence offender breaks a restraining order and is pinpointed within 1,000 feet of their associated victim. When the offender nears a restricted area or restricted individuals, the 24/7 monitoring center intervenes via Rely Alert's three-way voice communication and patches in the supervising officer to warn the offender of the violation. If no response, the monitoring center can also activate Rely Alert's onboard siren, acting as an immediate deterrent.
This is the Track Group Monitoring Center. You've entered an exclusion zone. Please leave the area immediately. I have your probation officer on the line.
I'm sorry, I just got lost headed to a job site. I'm leaving now.
Thanks to Rely Alert's patented technology, officers were able to quickly assess the severity of the violation, and the offender is able to meet another day of rehabilitation efforts. Rely Alert XC4, the safest, most reliable monitoring device ever made.
Glory House started.
What if I told you there's a secret hack to get all your favorite TV channels for free legally? Would you do it? This
We're
new
always all looking for a secret hack. So
Thanks. Give you a little something extra special.
Glory House started electronic monitoring, I think it was in 1993.
Yeah, probably about there.
And so it's really allowed our community, for people who have maybe some more severe violent offenses, to have some access in the community while they're still
Please
being
speak into the microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. Glory House started electronic monitoring in 1993, and it really allowed our community to be able to have the people who have higher offenses work, be with their family, but they're still being monitored. And so the majority of our clients who are on that system do have some more serious offenses, and it just allows more of a comfort level as community members that we know that as we're staging them back into the community, they're being watched with some extra eyes. So there's like exclusion zones, there's alerts that go off that notify our staff when this person is in an area that they're unauthorized to be in. And it's just a really nice wraparound service that Glory House offers.
Yeah, it's one of the better monitors in my opinion out there, because it does have that ability to talk to the client through the device itself. So the probation officer, parole officer, they can do that as well, and we can just set it specifically to that client's needs. So obviously every client has a different level of care that they're looking for, so we kind of build that around them. The next one is going to be our Scram bracelet, which is our alcohol monitoring. It's a dual functioning bracelet, but we only typically use it for the alcohol piece. So the client will put this on, wear it, and it's similar to a person doing 24/7, where versus 24/7 getting it twice a day, they're going to have that running on their ankle 24/7, and it's going to go about every 30 minutes. So they're actually getting a better monitoring level all day long to make sure that they're not drinking. A lot of times this device, allows them to have a driving permit while they're, in between getting their license after being suspended, that kind of thing. So it is a nice way for them to be able to get back to work again, like Nikki said, and, pay their bills, try to get back to normal. The Scram bracelet is $9 per day, $35 connection fee. With all those services, we do require them to pay 2 weeks in advance on the day of hookup, along with their connection fee. Drug testing. So we have really expanded in this area quite a bit, I would say, over the last, I don't even know, several years, but it seems to get better and better, and it's just such a great way for us to be able to assist those clients who are struggling in the addiction area once they leave us as residential and move out to outpatient. Just gives us that extra ability to put that on them and say, you need to come here. It's seeing that client, 2-3 times a week, sometimes less, just really depends. We also work and collaborate with their referring officer, so if they're on probation or parole, we could look at their advice on what they want to do and their recommendations with that too. So residential UAs, all clients who are, reside at the Glory House are on a drug testing randomly throughout the time that they're there. Codaphone is our assigned color system that we use. So every color, there's up to 12 different colors. Every color has a frequency listed next to it, and then based on that person's needs, that's the color that they'll be assigned to. So they could be reporting 12 times a month, or they could be reporting 1 time a month. It just really depends where they're at in their sobriety. Send-ins we do offer on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Only referrals are accepted till 5 p.m. So we kind of incorporated this into our drug testing because we get a lot of people, Department of Social Services, Child Protection Services, community, people going through a divorce, that type of thing, that are wanting to send people in for drug testing. And so we needed to kind of structure that where we knew how many people were going to kind of come in that day and plan accordingly with our staff. Sweat patches is a drug detection patch that's worn 24/7 for 10 days. So every 10 days they'll come in and get it switched out. It is basically worn on their shoulder, their lower back. It just depends on what area works best for them. And it's drug detection only. So far this year, residential, we've administered 3,086 drug tests. Codaphone, we're at 7,022. Department of Social Services and Child Protection Services, we're at about 896. Outpatient sweat patches, we're at 215. DSS sweat patches, 79. And Codaphone, we're at 106 clients on the program currently, which varies day to day, and that's male and female. Sweat patches, we have about 25 on the program. So throughout the time that our staff work, males are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. for drug testing reporting times, Monday through Friday, and females are 2:30 to 10. So we kind of look at the reporting times of all of our people on the program and just kind of set our schedules that way. I'll turn it over to Amber.
Cassidy.
You're welcome.
Amber Bartels, housing manager with the Glory House. I am in charge of helping with operations of the Glory House apartments. They were built and started taking tenants in 2019. It's 25 efficiency units, and they're all affordable housing. So we have tax credit and HUD funding to be able to keep those rents affordable. So right now they're anywhere between $471 and $599. So it's really beneficial for those individuals that are on Social Security income and have those limits, and gives them a really nice place to live as well. We do consider it a sober living supported community. While abstinent is not mandatory, it's very strongly encouraged. We're right adjacent to the Glory House property on the old ice rink grounds there. And so just given our proximity and the clients that we serve, we do continue to monitor those clients. We have case management available on site that's voluntary for all the individuals that are in the apartments. We know as individuals enter into our apartments, a lot of them have struggles with even not having been housed for a long time, or maybe have those poor credit history or landlord relationships. So our case manager is there and available to help them kind of navigate through those first few months of housing with us. And then we also have a program through Department of Social Services. It's called SHARE, which helps those individuals that are very newly in their recovery continue that support through their housing. So case management is required for those individuals. We do drug and alcohol monitoring for them as well while they're there. So, and in return for them staying sober and being in our apartments, they get a little bit of assistance with their rent while they stay. So one of the things that we love about our apartments is not only the proximity, obviously, to the Glory House programs, but it's in a great area of town. They can look out. They don't have to see casinos and bars and a lot of crime and traffic. And so it's a very safe neighborhood for these individuals to really continue building on their lives. An exciting thing that's happening right now is that we broke ground on our phase 2, so we're getting 51 more additional units. So if you haven't been by our area lately, come by, see it. We've got a second floor now. And so it's just been really exciting to see that progress and to be able to continue to offer this to our individuals, especially in the justice impacted area. We know that these individuals need safe housing for them, and this is kind of an example of what our unit looks like now. Obviously, we have construction going on next door, but they're very nice units, and like I said, it's good to have a place for these individuals to go where they're supported in their recovery and they don't have to worry about maybe what's happening next door in their neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
Questions? We very much appreciate you, the work that you do, and the time you took to be with us this morning.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 14, which is a presentation by Mike Lynch, Forward Sioux Falls. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Lynch, Program Director, Forward Sioux Falls. Thanks again for allowing me to present to you today. Let's see, there we go. Great, thank you. So Forward Sioux Falls, a joint partnership between the Chamber and Development Foundation. And who we are, we pursue long-term economic objectives and align them with the near-term needs. So every 5 years, the program is developed, freshly ideated. Some of those initiatives are carried over, but we also look to our investors to help us gauge exactly what direction we want to place focus heading in to the next program. Created in 1987, and currently we are in our 8th program, and we do have 325 current investors in the program. So basically, and for those of you, and I know that most of you are familiar, but we formulate the program and then we have a dedicated campaign to go out and raise funds to make sure that programming is funded over the next 5 years. So these are our current pillars: talent attraction, retention, development, business retention, expansion and attraction, innovation and entrepreneurship, and business advocacy, airport, and quality of place enhancement. So what we're really after is that collective impact through a myriad of initiatives that we feel is really going to move the needle in terms of our MSAs, ROI, and then to our individual and public partners with that ROI as well. Program goals for 2026, and they're, as you can see, they're lofty. They are created obviously at the beginning of the program, both internally by the Joint Venture Management Committee, which I will discuss here in just a minute, along with our campaign management company, whom we've used each of the last 8 programs. So here's a look at our governance structure, again, called the Joint Venture Management Committee, and the composition of this is the 5 executive committee members of both the Chamber and Development Foundation, as well as 5 appointed members. And this body is tasked with oversight of our finances and also programmatic activity in the direction that we need to go. Dave Fleechek from Avera Health is the current chair. So we'll start out here with economic and workforce development, land development. I know that Foundation Park, as you're well aware, has really taken off over the last few years. And for those of you who haven't been out there recently, it's really something to see. It's just a great location at the intersection of I-29 and 90, rail service. So it is truly a great site for us to help those companies either relocate, existing companies that are here, or companies that are coming to Sioux Falls for the first time. So our business retention, expansion, and attraction, again, very significant numbers here. As far as maybe that bullet point that might be most significant for you, $310 million in new tax base from the projects. Our talent attraction, retention, and development area is also very robust. Right now, 14 different initiatives are embedded within this, and I won't go into each of these. Hopefully, some of you had an opportunity to attend the recent Win in Workforce Summit, which is a great opportunity for the conveyance of best practices, networking, panel discussions, et cetera, dealing with a wide array of topics that we feel are relevant to workforce. Here's a few other of the initiatives within the talent attraction, retention, and development. Many of these programs, I will add, are that connection point between education and business, from K-12 through post-secondary, and oftentimes include a lot of geo-targeting within a 250-mile radius to try and get those recent graduates of post-secondary institutions to consider Sioux Falls as a great place to come and work and live. Here are some numbers from the talent attraction, retention, and development. And again, I think you would agree that they're impressive numbers. Getting into the advocacy, DE&I, YPN, SD trade. First of all, advocacy. This has been a foundational initiative within Forward Sioux Falls since the program's inception. Engaging our elected officials at all levels, including our city council, county commission, of course, full-time lobbyist and peer, and then we do have engagement with our federal delegation, which includes a DC fly-in as well. I will note on this slide here, within the South Dakota legislative session, and these efforts primarily are facilitated through the Chamber's Public Policy Department. But we track bills that are most significant to the business community and most important, we feel, to Forward Sioux Falls investors. And we had a 91% success rate on those bills that we either determined were in favor of the business community or that legislators should oppose. So we feel really good about that, and heading into this next session, we will continue that pursuit. The last 2 years, we had an activator series. DE&I is something that a lot of organizations may not certainly have a person on staff to focus on, so this helped to try and fill that void with a lot of best practices as it relates to DE&I. The Young Professionals Network, Forward Sioux Falls actually was kind of a convener several years back, probably, I'm guessing 12 to 15 years ago, where there, at that point in time, there were, I believe, 3 different YPN groups, and Forward Sioux Falls helped to kind of congeal all those into one. And it is a very robust group, over 850 members right now. We feel strongly that this is an area that we need to continue to support because, some are the leaders of today, but certainly they're the leaders of tomorrow as well, and they need to be supported by us and have a good understanding of what it's going to take to continue to lead the community forward. Last year, we were approached by South Dakota Trade, and this is an organization that is delving into international trade at a much more intensive level. The Chamber President and CEO, Jeff Griffin, is on the South Dakota Trade Board, but Forward Sioux Falls was able to be a partner in South Dakota Trade, and this is what we feel extremely important as we pursue international trade opportunities, exporting education, and trade missions, just so that South Dakota can be, in better competition with surrounding states. Some additional Forward Sioux Falls supported initiatives, and as you can tell, the initiatives that I covered to this point primarily facilitated within either the Development Foundation or the Chamber, but we have several other initiatives that we also are supporting. First one, the Health Sciences Clinical Simulation Center. This is out at the within the campus of Southeast Tech. It's so important, as we all know, as healthcare has just blossomed in our community over the last several years, or at least last couple decades. We need more of those healthcare professionals to fill those needs for our healthcare systems, and we believe that this is going to really be a great addition to getting us where we need to be with 150 additional students per year coming out of this program. The DSU Cybersecurity Research Center, again, this is an opportunity that really we hope Sioux Falls and the state of South Dakota really to be placed on a map as a leader in cyber. Ultimately, when completed, we feel it will produce 400 high-paying jobs within 5 years, operational late in 2025. Air Service, another foundational initiative within Forward Sioux Falls, because we realize that in order to, for our economy to thrive, we need a very robust airport, and we feel that we do, and we want to continue to be good partners with them so that they can provide those vital services for both recreational flyers as well as business flyers, making sure that the types of flights that are needed, the types of carriers that are needed are provided. Startup Sioux Falls, just making sure that that the entrepreneurial community is well supported. Again, we have been a foundational contributor to Startup Sioux Falls. I'm sure that their new location at 6th and Phillips will provide, that being a downtown location, will provide them even more opportunities, but their programming is very impressive. Lots of different programs for startups, for entrepreneurs to help them, help their organizations flourish. Sioux Falls Thrive, the Cradle to Career initiative. And the reason that Forward Sioux Falls believes that Sioux Falls Thrive is so important is that when you take children and their needs, their vital needs, food security, housing, after-school care, these are vital components, we believe, that will place them in a much better position for success in the future. And the programming with Sioux Falls Thrive, I believe, does just that. I recently had an opportunity to tour the newly established mobile market with Michelle Erpenbach, and that I think is going to really help in those food deserts that we have within Sioux Falls. Reach literacy, workforce literacy. As we know, Sioux Falls continues to, the Sioux Falls School District, for example, continues to become more diverse with nearly 44% of their students being non-white, and we feel that this is a great opportunity for us and one that we are embracing. Reach literacy goes into those businesses and fills in some of the gaps, some of the language gaps that the employees need to be able to thrive for safety and for advancement and just for understanding of their jobs. The Discovery District, the Shell building was assisted through dollars from the state, from the city of Sioux Falls, and Forward Sioux Falls comes under that private and other in terms of donating to that or sponsoring that. we're looking at an estimated construction of fall of 2024, feeling that once that shell building is constructed, that that businesses will be much more inclined to understand the benefits of locating there. Riverline District, another opportunistic opportunity for us, maximizing the riverfront. Forward Sioux Falls provided some earnest money for land purchases for that, and very excited to see where that project goes. Sioux Empire Housing Partnership, again, at its inception, Forward Sioux Falls has been a partner providing that that education to low and moderate income families, going out into the workplaces, providing that education, those services that first-time home buyers need. And then Vision Sioux Falls, this is the strategic plan that's conducted every 10 years. We're about halfway through this process with phase 1. Phase 2 is going to begin to connect some of these other large-scale projects that have been discussed and advanced in our area. So, making sure that there's a good alignment with our phase 1 into phase 2. And then finally, and this is my last slide, this is kind of the fruits of the labor. And Forward Sioux Falls is never going to certainly accept all responsibility for the economic success of our area, but we do feel strongly that were it not for Forward Sioux Falls, that our economic condition, our situation would be very, very different. And again, this is kind of the proof in the pudding with where we are as a community. Reader's Digest came out, as you may have seen, I believe last week or the week before, Sioux Falls being the most affordable city in America. So really happy about this. And I just want to thank you for your partnership, for your investment. And at this time, I'd entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you. It's very thorough presentation. We appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item 15, which is a presentation on Lifescape. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Wells, the Foundation President of Lifescape. All right. Okay. So as you have heard, I'm going to go through the presentation and highlight some of the updates from last year and some things that I've highlighted in the last year since I presented last year. We began our newest children's facility, I guess, in 1948. So in that time, we have had lots of changes over the last 70 plus years. We are very proud of our partnerships we have across the state, which really allow us to expand the impact that we're able to make across Minnehaha and the whole region. We do partner with all of the large area health systems, including some in Minneapolis and Rapid City, our higher education facilities, Southeast Tech here in Sioux Falls, Augustana, University of Sioux Falls, and then, of course, Dakota State, SDSU, USD. Lots of partnerships in employment and in research. The research aspect is one that is probably our largest growing partnership with each of those. And then also trying to meet our workforce needs. That is probably our biggest restriction on growth, and being able to meet our wait lists, our workforce. We have lots of partners within our state as well, with Department of Human Services, Department of Education, Department of Social Services, and Department of Health. All regulate and licensure our service lines. We are one of the top 13th largest employers in Sioux Falls, with a little over 1,100 employees. More than 60% of those employees are our direct support professionals. They are the folks who provide that direct care to the adults and the children that we support. This group of employees also, they make about $20 to $25 an hour. So they are some of our more entry-level positions in our facility. And our mission is to empower people to live their best life. That's not only the people that we support, but also our staff that support them. We serve over 5,600 children and adults across the region. You can see the state map there. We do support over 1,600 children and adults from Minnehaha County. we are in 65 of 66 counties in South Dakota. We've seen an increase in our children's services. The wait lists continue to grow as we continue to hire more board-certified behavior analysts, which helps provide that autism therapy. The wait lists continue to grow just in the number of kids who are being diagnosed and who need those supports. I'll talk a little more about that as we go. You can see how as our population grows, the number of children needing support is also growing as well. In our finances area, we've got the Lifescape Foundation supports the organization in providing about $3.8 million a year. This is through our endowment distribution, but then also donors saying specifically what they want to support. The organization's overall Lifescape's budget is about an $84 million budget. We did have some great success. Every year we go to the state legislature and essentially tell them this is what it costs to provide the services, and then they decide how much of the bill they're going to pay. That would be fabulous if we could all say, I could only afford 80% this year. Unfortunately, that is the methodology that happens. And we had been operating off of a methodology that matched our cost with reimbursement based in 2001. I know all of our bills have gone up since 2001 with inflation, and the reimbursement that we received, so that gap kept getting bigger of what it cost us to provide that service. And that's really somewhere the foundation steps in and helps fill that gap through the generosity of our donors. This last legislative session, though, Steve Watkins, our CEO, was able to convince the legislature, along with the other community support providers who provide services to adults, we are the only children's provider in the state. We were able to receive a 43% increase in our funding. If that tells you anything of the size of that gap. So it brought us up to 100% cost based on our 2022 fiscal year. And Children's Services received a 14% increase. So that has never happened. I've been with Lifescape for 20 years, and I've never heard of it happening before I got there either. So it was a very good legislative session for us. Again, that number's negotiated every year. So we'll continue to have that conversation. And this year, because of that 100% reimbursement, the Lifescapes, our foundation distribution is being held for our capital campaign. So that $2.7 million that we typically are able to provide to the agency, mostly for salaries and keeping lights on and building repairs, will now be held for the capital campaign, which I'll tell you more about. We do have our 18-bed specialty hospital. We have about 134 children were served in our school, our hospital, and our children's residential programs. We have 433 adults have been supported. Those are across mostly only Sioux Falls. We are building a new house in Harrisburg. So one of the highlights, we had a goal of building 5 new adult residential homes in 5 years. We just completed the 3rd residential home over on Ebenezer Avenue, just, I guess, east of Marion, and had 8 individuals be able to move into that home. These homes are ranging from 1.2 to now they're about $1.6 million homes. They're built like a twin home, really listening to the needs of the adults that we support, how to support the staff as well. And we have just put in our application. They're predominantly funded through a federal grant program administered through the state. And we are, Harrisburg will be our 4th house, and then our 5th house is being slated for Northeast Sioux Falls. So we're excited to continue that path, continuing to replace some of our older HUD houses that are just not really proud places to live. Our children that we support and adults have over 936 diagnoses. So we continue to serve the hardest of the hard individuals in our community and helping meet those needs. We do have our RISE custom solutions. This is orthotics, prosthetics, and mobility solutions. We partner with the VA, both in Sioux Falls and in the Black Hills, to provide that for our veterans as well. We have some of our highest trained seating and positioning experts in our region as well. Since our wait lists are so long, we recognize families need more supports. while they wait to get into the professionals. This last year, we launched some learning resources for parents and guardians and families on our website so they can really work with their children at home and try to gain some progress and have those resources where they are. Some of our newest updates that I have come in the area of our children's campus. So last year I mentioned to you that we are embarking on replacing our building that's on 26th across from the VA. That building was built in 1952, opened. Most things from 1952 are a bit tired and in need of a tune-up. So that building is no different. Since my last time speaking with you, we have purchased 10 acres of land in northwest Sioux Falls on Career and 34th. So we had a very small budget to be able to afford a piece of land in Sioux Falls, and we're lucky that someone came forward. We're excited the land had been farm property since the 1800s, so didn't really have to worry about any underground things that tended to surprise us on other pieces of property. This new facility, we have been able to partner and go to a lot of facilities around the country just because getting the best practices. What our facilities doing that care for children with autism and severe challenging behaviors. There's a facility in New Jersey called Bancroft. In Children's Rehabilitation Services, Shirley Ryan, up in Minneapolis, Gillette Children's. So lots of partners around the country are helping us build the best facility possible. We are working with Carlson Construction as our construction manager at risk. They are right now putting together the not to exceed budget. That contract should be signed in November. And Coke Hazard here in town, and then also HDR out of Omaha. They specialize in building hospitals and behavioral care facilities, so bring in that expertise as well. And then of course, all of our local and state partners. Benefits to the community. As Sioux Falls community grows, people who have a child who have special needs are going to make sure their children's needs can be met before they move and come to a community. So that is one thing that as we see the population grow, that's another reason we're seeing our numbers grow as well. We are nationally recognized for our support of veterans in our community. Our main goal is to keep care close to home for families. A lot of dual income families, single parents, making sure they don't have to travel to the cities or Omaha for care. And we are one of the only Medicaid providers. There's other facilities and providers that provide that applied behavior analysis for children with autism, but they don't accept Medicaid. Medicaid tends to be the worst payer of all of the payer options. But we know it is a gap we need to step in to meet those children's needs. And it also, we will provide more community spaces as well. That's more in our phase 2 of the project. As we've gone through, the project has been broken now into phases to make it more attainable. And phase 1, which will be our specialty hospital, the specialty school, the children's residential, some administration, our training, and then our inpatient and outpatient center will be located on that 10 acres. It has a price of $88.5 million. That's inclusive of the land. When we started the project in 2018, it was a $64 million project with the entire 200,000 plus square feet. So as our world has changed, we've moved that into a couple of phases. Our capital campaign has raised commitments of over $80 million so far. So we're getting close, which is super exciting. That does include an $8 million one-time expenditure approval by the legislature. So excited that the state has stepped forward to also help us meet that goal. To finish that fundraising, we have about $84 million that we need to raise by June of 2024, which is when we intend on breaking ground, trying to put a stake in the ground on inflation and get started. So we're excited about that. We'll continue fundraising and have lots of community engagement and community involvement when that process starts. Quick overview of the campus. You can see the design layout. It does face south, so entrance will be on 34th Street. It will contain the children's residential is in the lower light purple area, the school, our inpatient, outpatient therapy, the hospital, some administration. It will also, the second floor, it's 2-story. A unique part of this building that has been a challenge for us before is the playground. If you drive by our current facility, it has a fence that curves in. We have some pretty fast kids that getting out into the street is not always very safe. So this facility will allow the children to have a very open, free play area that's surrounded by building or glass structure. Some unique features of the building that may not be thought about in regular construction is all of the glass will be hurricane proof, or you will be able to throw a chair at it or hit it and it won't shatter, which is important in the support that we provide for individuals. It will also have reinforced walls. We just really need to keep those kids safe while they're in our care and be able to provide the best environment. Our phase 2 of the project has a $25 million cost on it. It will include a community center, the pool, a gym, another outdoor court area, and we'll consolidate the rest of our administration. And then also we'll incorporate a family visitation, much like the Ronald McDonald House apartments for families to stay in while they're visiting their children. We have been approached by USD School of Dentistry to add a few rooms into our facility. That's something, continuing conversations about that. And then potentially expanding our specialty hospital with the Department of Social Services making a request of bringing children that are now placed out of state because they need a level of care not offered in our state, bringing them back closer. And then a potential phase 3 that we've not been doing any planning for. It would take much more coordination with the state to expand residential. And how I mentioned before that our biggest constraint is staffing. So even if we were able to get approval for expansion, staffing would most likely limit that expansion. We thank the county commissioners for your support each year. That helps us continue to support the individuals that we do in the community. The $5,000 that the county has given us does get utilized in our adult services program. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Karski.
No questions, comment. And I mean this in a very positive way. These are bold, audacious plans. I'm impressed. And at first I've seen them. I guess I do have a question. What's going to happen on 26th Street?
If you know anyone that needs about 7 acres of land in a really old.
Okay.
We do plan on selling it. We've had some interest from the VA over the years, kind of been off and on. A few developers in town have looked at it, trying to help solve some housing. The building is very clinical and school in its structure. So yes. And then, of course, we have to stay there until the new facility is completely built, which the construction timeline on that is a 30-month construction. So we would expect, if we break ground in June of 2024, occupation date of about December of 26. So continuing to look for a buyer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for taking the time to be here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us back to more of our normal business agenda. So it takes us to item 16, which is the first reading and authorize the auditor to publish notice of hearing for ordinance text amendment 23-06 to amend the 1990 revised zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County. Kevin.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. This is the first hearing and to authorize the publication of notice for the second reading. For ordinance to amend to add intermodal shipping / storage containers to the ordinance. The ordinance currently doesn't have any regulations regarding shipping containers. And in individual storage, people are using these for individual storage and structures throughout their yards, and they're becoming more common throughout the county. There's also requests of using them for part of buildings say stacking them and putting rafters on them, that sort of thing. So we just want to make sure we have some regulations in place for where these structures can go and how they're going to be implemented in the county. Review of this ordinance began with the Planning Commission in May of this year. And we kind of discussed options and looked at other ordinances that are related. Final draft was presented on October 23rd at Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission unanimously voted to approve it, if the proposed ordinance. Since this is a first reading, the action for today will be to authorize the auditor to publish notice, and staff is requesting November 28th as the hearing date. Is there any questions?
Questions for Kevin? Is there anyone for public comment on this item today? All right, seeing none, I turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Karski.
I'd make a motion to set the hearing date for November 28th.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Kevin. Takes us to item 17, which is the first reading to authorize the auditor to publish notice of public hearing regarding a revision to the ambulance ordinance service area. Good morning, Jason.
Jason Gierman, Minnehaha County Emergency Management. Here today for the first reading and requesting to publish notice of hearing reference SDCL 7-18A-5. I don't know, do I need to read the ordinance? Is that part of it? Okay. The reason we're doing this is at the request of Dell's Ambulance a couple years ago when they took over Crooks. The surrounding area in Crooks, if we could get the one with the red on it, I can kind of explain. Yeah, that one, that's the old map. That's the 2016 version. As we scroll down, you see the red areas. That's an expansion of the city limits within Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls. And as you can see, there's considerable expansion up in Crooks. And Area 5 is MedStar, which surrounds Crooks. So what we're trying to avoid is having to travel through other people's jurisdiction to get to the call. And if you noticed how Crooks is kind of jagged, it really, if we include that in Area 1, it kind of smooths things out for dispatch. And if you could go to the next, the final one. Yeah. Kind of formatted odd there. So we expanded Area 1, and there was some expansion done, which is Dell's Ambulance, and some expansion with very minimal expansion with Humboldt, and no expansion with Garrettson, and then patient care was able to expand their area a little bit to kind of cover those gaps on the south end of Crooks. So MedStar didn't have to go through the city of Sioux Falls to get to their call on the other side of that. Obviously, it hasn't been updated since 2016. And all the ambulances were very receptive to this. We had a couple meetings reference it, and that's kind of the quick version of why we're doing this. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Jason? Is there any public comment on this item today? All right, I think you're also looking for a hearing on November 28th?
Yes.
Could I turn it over to the commissions for discussion or a motion?
Would make a motion to have the hearing set for November 28th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your work on that. Item 18 is to authorize the chairperson to sign the Joint Security Protection Agreement with the South Dakota Department of Military for services from October 2023 to September 2024. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Adam Ziska. I'm the Patrol Commander for the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office, and today I'm asking to authorize the Commission Chair to sign the Joint Protection Security Agreement with the Department of Military Services for the fiscal year October 2023 through September 24. The Sheriff's Office provides full-time certified deputies to work alongside officers and enlisted personnel at the National Air Guard Base. And these are done under a contract with military, Veterans and Military Affairs. This year, this contract would cover, as it has in past years, all personnel, all equipment, and all training, all administrative charges to be charged under the contract. If there's any overages in the contract, that's also covered by the Air National Guard. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Is there anyone for public comment on this item today? All right.
I would make a motion to approve the agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to item 19, which is to authorize the chairperson to sign the 2024 Law Enforcement Services Agreement for 8 communities within Minnehaha County. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Bosman, Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. This morning I have in front of you our annual request to sign the law enforcement service agreements with the 8 communities in Minnehaha County that the Sheriff's Office has the honor to serve as their primary law enforcement partners. There are 2 towns in our jurisdiction, the county, Brandon and Sioux Falls, each have their own law enforcement, so they are the primary law enforcement in those communities. However, for Baltic, Colton, Crooks, Del Rapids, Garrettson, Hartford, Humboldt, and Valley Springs, we are their law enforcement response and patrolling capabilities in those towns. We each year look at the annual contract rate that we charge to these towns. We discuss that during our budget process internally, as well as communicate that with each of these towns well in advance throughout the summer so they have time to prepare for any adjustments into 2024. We've discussed any questions in between us and the towns if they had any. And so at this point, the agreement that we have says anytime after November 1st, we can begin the process of officially signing and renewing the agreements. So at this point, I'm asking for the County Commission Chairperson to sign the 8 agreements for these towns to renew for 2024.
Thank you. So any questions for Commissioner Karski?
Captain, have any of these communities bumped up their hours? Or are they pretty similar to what they've been in the past?
Good question. There was no adjustment in the hours of coverage from 23 to 24. There has been some preliminary discussions with Crooks, as Director Gearman had mentioned about the growth in the city limits of Crooks, that they are looking at the option of potentially increasing the number of patrol
So
hours.
if they wanted to, would they be able to come back and modify the contract? I just look at this and I think, Del Rapids and Hartford to me would be very similar, but Del Rapids has 50% more time.
The uniqueness with the Del Rapids and Hartford is that the Hartford, they contract for 100 hours of, that would be kind of like general patrol service. They also have a fully reimbursed where they pay 40 hours a week for one specific deputy to be in Hartford, called the Hartford deputy. So when you take the 40 hours for the one deputy plus the 100, where both Hartford and Del Rapids are considered 24-hour coverage.
Well, that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is just the contract rate that is separate than the reimbursement for the one FTE we have. If any towns do ask for an increase in services, depending on what that number would be, we would be able to evaluate that increased number with our personnel and have those discussions internally with the commission.
Okay, excellent.
Any other questions?
Make a
Captain
motion to
Nelson?
approve.
I need public comment
Oh,
first.
sorry.
Because I'm very proud of myself for remembering, because I'm not always so good about remembering that. Is there anyone here for public comment? All right, now I'll entertain the motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 20. Is consider a motion to declare the Highway Department vehicles and equipment as surplus and authorize disposal through online auction. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. We've recently taken possession of a couple new Super Duty pickups and our new scissors lift, so we're looking for your authorization to allow us to surplus and sell at public auction 2 F-250 pickups, our old scissors lift, as well as the standby generator from the old highway facility. Purple Wave Auctions is having a municipal auction the first week of December, and our intention is to list those on that auction.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve? So if anybody's dying for a 2008 Ford F-250, you've got a deal for them, huh?
Yes.
Public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment today? All right. I'd entertain a motion.
So move, Benninga.
Second?
All right, motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 21, which is to authorize the highway superintendent to allow the assistant highway superintendent to sign plats as needed.
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. Before a recent medical leave, I asked the state's attorney's office their opinion if the assistant highway superintendent could sign plats during my absence. And turns out state statute was fairly vague on the matter. So in order to make things more crystal clear, I worked with the state's attorney's office and we decided to bring this to the commission for your authorization during absences to allow the assistant highway superintendent to sign plats and other statutory delegated functions.
Thank you. All right, is there any questions for Steve? Any public comment on this item? All right, I turn it over to the commission for discussion, motion.
Move approval.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item 22, which is to consider a motion to adopt a resolution restoring tax deed property RDID 34968 to the former owner of record. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Chris Swanson, County Treasurer. So Minnehaha County acquired this property by means of a treasurer's tax deed sale, or tax deed due to his delinquent taxes. But prior to the sale, this person did come in and pay off the amount due, which was in the amount of $40,912.94. This payment represents all taxes, assessments, interest, and costs of owing to this property. With the above referenced payment, this property now was removed then from the tax deed auction. Approval of this request would then restore the title of this property to the last owner of the record, which is Edward Hurley. So we just ask that you approve the resolution to authorize restoration of the property to the former owner.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris? Anyone for public comment on this item? All right, I turn it over to the commission then for
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 23, which is a briefing on the 2023 tax deed sale auction results to consider approval of 5 tax deed sale resolutions. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commission, Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. So yes, this is a combined briefing, and also we have 5 resolutions. The results of the sale were good. It was great working with the Public Surplus Group doing the sale online. I know this year it took a little more effort, but in the future years it will be a little more smooth going through the process. So we ended up with 5 properties on the sale. And in my briefing memo, the first one that's listed there, that 904 East First Street, that was the only property that had a winning bid that exceeded the total encumbrance. And so at a later meeting, we will be bringing forth plans for that excess based on the Tyler versus Hennepin County Supreme Court ruling. But so what I have before you, I'm not going to go through all the details, but the other 4 properties were sold for less than the encumbrance. 4 of the resolutions that I have for you today are requesting that you approve the sale of the properties. And one of the resolutions, the one for 83302, the parcel number, is approving rejection of, I gotta get the wording right, rejection of the sale. On that property, the winning bidder has declined to sign the purchase agreement, And so we are not going to move forward with that one. And then also just a bit of summary. I know Chris has presented the most recent one that paid off the taxes, but the total encumbrance that was collected on all the properties was $105,691. And as I mentioned, the proceeds that are in excess, we will bring that to to a meeting in the future, probably on the 21st. So in summary, I have 4 resolutions to approve the sale and 1 resolution to reject a sale.
All right, thank you. Are there questions for the auditor? Commissioner Karski.
How would you judge the volume of bids, that type of thing, this way versus the other way? How did you feel about it?
Well, since this was my first sale, I can't really look back and tell you what it was like previously. We had a good volume of bidders on each of the properties. We had bidders that were from other areas, not just here in Sioux Falls. In fact, the property, let's see, the North Waltz property 45696 was sold to someone out of the country. Currently, they're out of the country, so we've been able to work with them electronically to get all the documents signed. But I thought we had good success.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so I think what I'm looking for are 2 separate motions. I think I'd entertain a motion.
Public,
Excuse me?
public input.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Public input. Is there anybody here for public input on this item? All right. Oh, there we go. Good morning.
Morning, Randy Borton. I was the winning bid for 83302. The reason I'm here is when I go to the city to ask if I can be billed on the property, there's a zoning issue. Per the website, it says I can build a mod house, but when I go to the city, they say that it's a dike. So there's misinformation one way or the other. So that's why, excuse me, that's why I'm here. That's why I rejected the sale of the property. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, so what I think I'm looking for are 2 separate motions. The first motion would be to approve the sale of parcels listed as A, B, C, and D. And then we'll have a separate motion to reject the sale of that last parcel.
Make a motion to accept the sale of the parcels indicated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And so then I'd entertain.
A question for the auditor. What happens to this one that the sale didn't go through? I mean, it sounds like it's a retention pond. Is that?
Yeah, we listed it as a detention pond, is how it was described in the legal description. And that was what was listed on the sale site. We still had to list the property to sell because we had acquired ownership of the property and declared it surplus. I'm working with the state's attorney's office on what we will do next on that property. So I don't really have an answer at this time, but we will bring that back to you when we have that.
I thought that typically these properties were just given to the city as a retention pond and.
That's in the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Right, then I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to reject the sale of parcel 83302.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 24, which is a briefing on the proposed election precinct boundary changes for 2024. Leah, good morning.
Yes, good morning again. Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. So today I just have a briefing on our precinct project. We've been working on this, well, it's been ongoing since before I started. So it's been worked on for approximately a year. So in the fall of 2021, the South Dakota legislature finalized new boundaries for the legislative district changes based on the 2020 census. There wasn't sufficient time between doing the redistricting and the 22 election to make necessary changes for the precinct boundaries to correspond with the district changes. So in 2022, there were a total of 19 precincts that had multiple legislative districts, and that caused some confusion. And we also have had some longer wait times in some of the precincts. So what we are looking at now is we would have a net increase of precincts from 75 to 81. We will be gaining 7 precincts within the city limits, and we will lose 1 voting precinct, a VP 12. It will be combined with a different VP. So my plan is to present to you a resolution at the November 21st commission meeting for your approval. What we're currently working on is the resolution and creating text descriptions of all the precincts. It's very time-consuming and complicated, but we are diligently working on that, and we're working closely with the city of Sioux Falls. Jeremy is here today to get their help in writing those precinct descriptions so that we can put together that resolution. And I also have brought, well, Heidi's here. We have some maps just in case you have questions about the precincts, but we will be bringing more detail at the 21st meeting.
Thank you. Are there questions for the auditor this morning?
Sure. Just curious, what is the primary consideration? Is it geographical? Is it population? What goes into determining where those boundaries are? I mean, what do you consider highest priority?
Well, one priority would be to try to minimize what we consider splits with other districting entities. For instance, the water districts, the consumer power, legislative districts, those boundaries. So we look at that. We look at city limit boundaries, wards, school district boundaries. There's a lot that goes into it. Wow. And then population-wise, when I say there's longer than desired wait times, legislatively in statute, if the wait time for a voter is more than 30 minutes, that's considered too long. So we try to look at in-person voting history and try to keep those numbers smaller if possible. So we have a few precincts that just are way too large.
All those things you don't even think about, school districts, legislative, and so.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's very complicated. And every time we think we're done, something else comes up.
I'm curious, is there any software that you use to help with that, or is it all done manually?
Well, Heidi is kind of the help that we're looking to. So in GIS, we are using a lot of the mapping systems to try to look at all those boundaries, and then we come up with, when I mentioned splits, so there's splits that are numbered. So currently, I think we have 199 splits combined in all those legislative, or all of the precinct boundaries. So the split is what tells us everything about where that person lives and what areas they vote in for different items, whether it's school districts, city issues, legislative issues.
Thank you. I mean,
Yes.
it is kind of mind-boggling, and so
It-
we
it
appreciate all the
is.
work that you were doing. And we knew from the last election cycle that it was, it was confusing because there were a lot of places that people went to vote where there are multiple things going on, multiple ballots, and that
Mhm.
makes it confusing for the voters. So you're trying to make it convenient and less confusing for voters.
That's our goal.
Well, thank you very
Yes.
much. Are there any other questions? Any public comment on this item? All right, thank you. All right, that takes us to item 25, which is a briefing on the alcohol beverage license compliant check failures. Kim Christensen, good morning.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Kim Christensen with the Auditor's Office. On November 2nd of this year, the Sheriff's Office informed the Auditor's Office that they had conducted a compliance check on 43 businesses holding an alcohol license within the county. Of those 43 businesses, 2 of them failed the compliance check, with only one of the licenses being issued through Minnehaha County. The Safari Bar and Grill was cited for failure of the compliance check. They hold a retail on-sale liquor license, and for purposes of clarity, the other failing license is actually located through the municipality where it is located. Due to the failed compliance check, the county will be required to hold a public hearing upon receipt of the renewal application later this month. For your reference, the Safari Bar and Grill did have a violation back in November of 2021. Otherwise, there have been no other violations have been recorded by the Sheriff's Department going back to 2015. In addition, the state can also impose a monetary penalty on the business. And just as an FYI, you did approve the notice of hearing for publication earlier today under the consent agenda, and that will be held at or after 9 a.m. on November 28th. And Captain Josh Phillips with the Sheriff's Department is also here if there's any questions regarding the compliance check.
Thank you. Any questions by the commission?
Quick
Commissioner
comment.
Fresky.
I congratulate the 41 that passed. Good job. To the 2 that didn't, you got a little work cut out for you, but now you look at the ones that didn't, and it could have 2 in 24 months could have a serious impact. I mean, if that bar or restaurant would have to shut down, I mean, that negative impact to those communities. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna bring my helper up.
Captain Josh Phillips here, Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. And yeah, so they're within the 24-month period. If there's any more failures with that said business, Department of Revenue can suspend that license for a period of time. And the fine amount for that business through the Department of Revenue really depends on if they've had any training. The Department of Revenue offers training to all their staff, and then they check and see if they're compliant with that, and that kind of really changes how the fine amount goes for that business. But I've been doing this nearly 20 years in the liquor compliance checks for probably 15, and we try to do everything to educate these businesses. We love to see the passes. We'd love to we do them several times a year. We'd love to have 0 failures. So we keep shooting that through the education piece, through the Department of Revenue and our office and our deputies stopping in. So hopefully we get there. Like I said, great job to the businesses that did pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody for public comment on this item? All right, it is a briefing, so if there aren't any further questions by the commissioners, we'll move on. Okay, that takes us to item 26, which is to consider a motion to approve the 2024 license and wine license renewal applications. Kim.
Good morning, Kim Christensen with the Auditor's Office again. We have received the 2024 liquor and wine renewal applications for the licenses that are located outside the municipalities within the county. Again, these were reviewed by the State's Attorney's Office, Planning Department, as well as the Sheriff's Department, and there were no issues or concerns reported with any of these applications. The new renewal applications that are listed did all pass the last compliance check, so they are able to move forward. Again, the one that failed will be coming forward at the end of the month, and the state I've been communicating with the state regarding that. Just kind of an FYI regarding some of the fees. The off-sale liquor license renewal fee is $500. The retail on-sale liquor license ranges from about $900 to $1,500, depending on where it is located within the county. So it bases off the nearest municipality to that establishment. So if you're near Sioux Falls, you're paying the higher fee, and then the renewal fee for the retail on-sale wine and cider license is $500, and all of those fees are retained by Minnehaha County.
Thank you. Questions for Kim? Anyone for public comment on this item? Nobody wants to get up and give Kim some more time to get back to her chair. All right. I'll turn it over to the commission then for comment, discussion, or a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 2024 liquor and wine license renewals.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And this takes us to item 27, our last item on our regular agenda.
Good morning, Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. So this item, as it's noted on the agenda, is to approve a 4-hour holiday benefit to benefits eligible employees in the county on December 22nd. So I would urge your support for this particular motion. What this would effectively do is close county offices at noon on the 22nd of December. I do want to remind you that the 25th, which is the following Monday, is a day off, certainly for the Christmas holiday. Everyone will be back to work on Tuesday, the 26th, and as you know, that's also one of your bigger meetings of the year to consider a variety of items. So I would urge your support as a recognition for the great work of our employees, but also to provide a little extra time to spend with family and friends. And lastly, I just want to point out that this is outside the scope of our current policy, which is why it's being presented before you. There is a Christmas Eve benefit that's identified in the county policy, but of course Christmas Eve is on Sunday this year. This isn't necessarily a substitute, but it is a recognition again to provide folks with some time off to spend with their friends and family. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Tom? Anyone for public comment on this item?
Move approval.
Second?
Motion and a second. I just would like to say before we vote that we really appreciate all the staff that we have here. We aren't able as public employers to do as much as we'd like to do, so this is a small token of our appreciation. At least that's my perspective on this. So, all right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to public comment. If there's anyone here for public comment about an item that is not on the agenda today, this is your opportunity. Seeing nobody rushing to the podium, I'll turn it over to commissioners. Are there any commissioner liaison reports today? Hard after we haven't had a meeting for a week to remember if there's anything. Commissioner Benega.
I'll just make one comment. I was able to attend a strategic planning session for the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, and I'm thoroughly impressed with what that group does to this region, actually probably even further than the region, and the benefits that we all receive because of their extremely talented work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Liaison reports this morning? All right, any non-action commission discussion? All right, we do have an executive session today immediately following the commission meeting for purposes of SDCL 1-25-2, 1, 3, 4, and 6. So I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will take a 10-minute recess, and we will start our executive session in the training room next door at 5 after 11. Thank you for coming, everyone, today.